Are you ready?
Yep.
Stop boy!
Welcome to the Three Gun Show. I am your host, Dave Harmon. This is episode 201, and I talk with Ryan Reed, who got hooked on Three Gun in 2009. We discuss how the game has changed in that time, knowing when to give up on long-range targets, and how to practice for multi-gun matches when there aren't any club matches around you. This podcast is brought to you by LAG Tactical. I've been using LAG gear for 3 years now, and I just got an upgrade into their new for 2018 MCS mag pouches. MCS stands for Modular Carry System and is a two-piece design that fits most double-stack 9 and 40 mags and most AR mags. That means I can loan gear to someone in need on the range, even if we're shooting different guns. I've been using these pouches for many matches now, and they've been great. I like that you can choose the retention based on what is required by the stage, Speed Demon or locked in tight. I've been shooting the low-cut Supernova holster as well, and it has been a dream. They make it in a mid and high cut too if you're into that, but I'm digging the low cut, super fast draws, and plenty of retention when you need it. Check them out, lagtactical.com, and use code 3GS in all caps to save yourself 10% when placing an order. This podcast is brought to you by Breda USA, Italian shotguns that are the best in the world. And this is a shotgun tech tip from Team Breda. Hey, this is Dave Hartman for the Three Gun Show, and we have Josh Tarrant of Team Breda, and he's here with a shotgun tech tip for you. Josh, what do you got?
Today we're going to talk about shotgun stance. Stance is incredibly important to be able to shoot a shotgun well, manage recoil. So first up, we're going to start at the feet. You want your feet wider than shoulder width apart. If you're right-handed, you want your left leg further forward. You want about 75% of your weight on your left leg, weight over the balls of your feet. You want to have a nice forward lean of your spine. Shoulder the shotgun, roll your shoulder forward to cradle. And that'll help you ride the recoil and get back on target faster.
That's another shotgun tech tip with Josh Tarrant from Team Breda. Thanks, Josh. Check out Breda's B12i 3-gun ready inertia-driven shotgun at BredaUSA.com. That's BREDA. Welcome, everybody, to the Three Gun Show. As I record this, I just got back from TriggerCon in Washington, which was a ton of fun. Really cool range day, really cool exhibition, a lot of consumer show stuff, industry show, just a lot of fun. I got a bunch of great content while I was out there, really good interviews, and you're going to love them. For the last couple of months, I've had help in booking guests for the podcast, and we've got content for months right now, so stay tuned for even more awesomeness in the future. But on the TriggerCon front, thank you for Vortex Optics for making that happen for me. Got to hang out with all the Vortex peeps for the range day in the booth at the show, and many of you came by to say hey, which was really cool. I really enjoy seeing all of you in person, putting a face to the Instagram name and all that stuff. So anytime you see me on the range or at a show or something like that, be sure to say hey. Let's snag a picture and we'll do it for the gram. And speaking of help, I've engaged a designer to get more awesome Three Gun Show apparel out for you guys. I've had a lot of requests for some cool stuff, and it is coming. Three Gun Show patrons get first crack at apparel, so if you want to be the most stylish person at your match, be sure to sign up at patreon.com/3gunshow. That's Patreon. Now on to the show. Ryan Reed has been in the game for nearly a decade now, and he's seen a lot of changes in matches, his game, and his practice. I really enjoyed this chat with him because several people come into the game, burn really hot, and burn out fast, and Ryan has a very well thought out method for choosing the matches that he shoots that minimize time away from the family and maximize fun, which I think contributes to his longevity. You're going to learn a lot, so enjoy this one with Ryan Reed. Ryan, welcome to the Three Gun Show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you, man. I'm excited to chat with you here. We got to briefly talk on the mics just a couple of months ago at Vortex Shooter Source, and I got some feedback from the audience. They're like, "Hey, who is this guy?" So we're gonna do a little dive into Ryan Reed here.
Oh, sounds great. Sounds great.
Well, I figure we start off with just kind of your personal background. Like, what do you do when you're not shooting? Who's Ryan when he's not at the range?
So I'm a registered nurse. Been a nurse for almost 20 years. Got my bachelor's degree when I was probably early 20s. Started working there. Married, 2 kids, 2 boys. So when I'm not working, or the limited time I do get to practicing, spending time with them, they're both involved heavily in soccer and just different sports, various activities. My oldest is 12. He plays guitar, soccer, different clubs through his middle school. So my wife and I kind of just take turns running him around.
Yeah, you're in that taxi phase.
Yes, definitely. Well, especially school just ended a few weeks ago and it hadn't stopped. We're still running him around soccer camp. He started in strength and agility training last week, so running him there. Yeah, getting him just kind of help him out a little bit, build a little bit of athleticism and stuff, and get him moving, not sitting on the couch playing PlayStation the whole time.
Yeah, that sounds like the typical summer, right? A lot of PlayStation, a lot of couch.
Yep, absolutely. And kind of get him out of that, get outside, do some stuff. So,
well, did you do high school sports, and was soccer your thing?
Actually, I know nothing about soccer.
Oh, really?
And after 2 or 3 years with them playing, I know a little bit, but we didn't have much soccer. I grew up in South Louisiana, and there was some soccer there, but we had the big 3, football, baseball, basketball. I played baseball from when I was probably 5 years old. My dad played college baseball. He was a coach, and I played baseball through high school. Tried to play a little college. Ended up breaking my hand my senior year, right when I graduated, during playing summer ball, and was kind of set to walk on at one of the schools, and ended up being in a cast, missed walk on. Started college and kind of went from there. After that, I kind of wanted to see what else was out there besides sports. So I had a lot of friends that were playing, and they a lot of time, dedication. I mean, they were practicing 5 a.m. out in the weight room, and then out on the fields, then off to class, then to class, and after that back on the practice field. So it was a lot of time and dedication, and it's going to be kind of hard to do that and study and pursue a degree. So kind of gave that up, did some intramural sports and things like that.
All right, yeah. So that's got to be tough as a college athlete. Now we've got a bunch of college athletes in our sport as well, and it seems like they never stop that competing.
No, and that's actually trickled down even to the high school now. I talk to friends who have kids in high school, and they practice year round now for various sports. Yeah, absolutely. When I was playing, we play a little bit in the fall, baseball in the fall, but then we'd go to it was mostly focused on football and basketball, and then we'd start after Christmas. But it seems like there's kids out there right now practicing right now for fall baseball and for spring baseball.
Yeah,
starting with high school. So it's definitely takes up a lot of time and takes a lot of dedication too.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's kind of like our shooting sports. That with 3-gun, it used to be there were half a dozen 7 matches a year, something like that, and there was like an actual off season where you could actually practice and prepare for the next match. And looking at the calendars I have hanging in my office here, it doesn't seem like there's really an off season anymore.
No, there's really not. I shot my last big match of 2017 was Fort Benning, and that was the weekend before Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And I think I took a little time off then, and then we were back I think February. I had a road trip in February, so it seems like I think a lot of the places are too playing in on their weather. You're not going to shoot a big match up north in that time of year, but Texas and some of the southern states can still have matches year round. So
yeah, we shot. Let's see, January 27th was the SHOT Show after match that
yes.
Pete Rensing puts on.
Uh-huh.
And then Hard as Hell is in December. So yeah, there's not really much of a stop. I know in Texas they don't do much in July, right? Because it's
a little warm.
Yeah, and we're getting to the point where, you just asked me like before we got started here, why wasn't at Task Force Dagger, but there's also I think Northeast Multi-Gun. There's like a major match in Alaska this weekend.
Yeah, I thought I saw something like their state championship.
Yeah, Alaska State Championship, and then there's a third one. And of course the IPSC World Shoot's going on right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
the John Voight Memorial.
Yeah, there you go. Safari Land Expedition Multi-Gun. Like, this is a big weekend here for shooting sports. It's actually incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing to have the opportunity to shoot, to choose now where you're going to go, and especially, like you said before, there was 12 maybe big matches a year, and now it seems like there's at least 5 a month. And, lots of opportunity, lots of choices.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so let's get into that a little bit here. So when about how long have you been shooting 3-gun?
I started shooting 3-gun. I shot my first 3-gun in 2009, I believe it was.
Okay.
It was a match in Waco, Texas. It was put on by LaRue Tactical. I'd seen, it wasn't their first match, but I'd seen some videos from it before. And when I moved to Arkansas, probably in 2004, I believe it was. When I moved up here, I was doing, before I moved here, I was hunting a lot, playing golf a lot, doing stuff like that with some of my friends from school. We had just graduated college, not far before that. But when we moved up here, I didn't really have anybody to do any of that stuff with. So I got into some pistol competition. There was a little local club I joined and had a pistol, was shooting that. And then so had been shooting pistol for a while. Probably 3-4 years shooting like IDPA and USPSA, stuff like that. Had made master in a couple divisions in IDPA, and it was fun. I was having a good time with it. But a friend of mine, we saw this match in Texas and decided, hey, let's try this out and see how it goes. And I think I had an AR with a 1-4 power scope on it and a flashlight on it, a big quad rail, and the shotgun I had was a pump, Mossberg pump. And just the Glock 34 I was shooting in competition. And we went out there and we had a blast. It was it was a great facility. It was Tiger Valley. They had sniper towers. They had mock-up helicopters. They had mock-up vehicles with that you were shooting out of, shooting at targets in these vehicles, crawling through tunnels. It was we got back and I was like, man, I had fun doing this. This is what I want to do. Kept shooting pistol here and there for a little while, but the 3-gun kind of really got bit by the 3-gun bug at that point. It was probably a year or two before I was able to get to another big match, and but that's kind of where it all started for me.
It's kind of hard to go to a match like that where there's all these elaborate props and, like you said, towers and everything, and then just go back to an IDPA or USPSA match where it's like, hey, there's walls and you can see through them.
Yeah, we shot a stage where you. They had a breacher door set up where you had to use a round of birdshot to break through the lock, and then you kick the door in and you go from there. It's kind of hard to go back to shooting, an 18-round IDPA stage after that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The adrenaline rush wasn't quite there anymore.
Yeah. So you'd been shooting pistol competitions up until then. What brought you into like competitive shooting sports? We'd moved up here. Like I said, didn't have much going on hobby wise. I didn't know where to hunt up here. We'd just gotten here and stuff. I was actually looking at, I just turned 30. They had a 30 and older baseball league. And I was looking at maybe getting back into playing some baseball. And my wife and I were watching TV one night, and I think it was Shooting USA, and they were at the IPSC Nationals or USPSA Nationals. And I just remember seeing, guys running around with open pistols, and my wife's like, you should try that. And I was like, I'll look around and give it a shot. So that's why I found a little local club and ended up shooting some pistol competition. Nice. Saw it on TV. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because you think now, and I mean back, that was only 10 years ago, and you'd see some IPSC stuff on Shooting USA, and I even remember seeing some old video from further back of stuff on ESPN shooting competitions, pistol competitions, not just like clays or anything like that, but actual pistol competition on ESPN. And it's funny how the political climate has changed.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't think I ever saw it like on a first run on ESPN, but I've definitely seen the YouTube videos of the replay. And
definitely.
God, I just can't even imagine it now. It's incredible.
I mean, we just had a Josh just won open at the IPSC
Yeah.
Worlds, and you won't hear that anywhere outside of social media, probably.
Yep. Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah. It's really disheartening, especially for, all the people that I know and that I shoot with and that have been on the show and that I communicate with, and they've dedicated like a large part of their life to mastering their craft, and it just falls by the wayside on any kind of media out of social. It's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, but I guess that gives the Three Gun Show a reason to exist, and that's one of the inspirations to start this. Is there is no sort of voice for the shooting sports outside of I don't know, specialty deep cable channels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And YouTube searches and things like that. But it's great that you're out there and you're getting people. I mean, I know people that listen to your show that don't even shoot 3-gun.
Oh, really?
Or they shoot it occasionally. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm always surprised when I run into this kind of makes me feel bad sometimes, actually. When I run into someone's like, yeah, I listen to your show. Don't shoot 3-gun. I shoot IDPA or I shoot USPSA. And then it always goes through my head like, oh crap, like I make too many IDPA and USPSA jokes on the show.
Well, they've been around for a while. They're used to getting made fun of some way or another. They believe me, they dish it out for 3-gunners too.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'll go to USPSA match and they're like, now remember, Ryan, you got to hit the A. You can't just put 2 in the D and move on. You're not going to get enough points from that. So
yeah, exactly. I love it. All right. Well, as long as we all know that we're kidding and good fun here, we can all get along, because the shooting sports are shooting sports, and it doesn't matter which one you choose as long as you're out there doing something cool.
Oh, agreed, definitely.
All right. So you shot your first match in 2009. When you got back on the horse and shot another match, what kind of changes did you make? Like, what did you learn from that first experience that you thought, okay, well, next time I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it different.
So the shotgun was the biggest part.
Yeah.
That shooting the pump was tough. Shooting a pump and loading the way I was loading, I was actually had caddies. So it's back those old 4-round California competition caddies.
Yep.
So just trying to master that. I remember watching videos from like Kurt Miller and guys like that who were loading 8 rounds out of those things in 4.5 seconds or so, and just trying to get that good old strong hand load down or weak hand load with those things, getting as many shells in the gun as fast as you could, and getting another shotgun. I tried, the pump wasn't the most efficient thing for the game. So right when I got back, I bought, I think it was like a Remington 1187 from a local guy that he'd already had his short barrel extended tube on it. But that gun had caveats with loading. It's got a button on the lifter you got to push, so a little slower, and it's so much machinery inside operating the shell release that you can't take as much metal out as you can like on a Benelli or guns like that like we run now. So I guess just trying to get more work on the loading with the shotgun. Now my rifle too, that was something we have a range out here. We shoot out to 600 yards, but about 200 was about the furthest I shot that gun, and we shot out to 5 at that match. So it was kind of learning a little more about how to shoot long range, and learning too that just because it's a long range target and it's a 20-second penalty or so doesn't mean you have to hit it. You spend 40-50 seconds trying to shoot a 20-second target, or should you just move on?
Yeah.
kind of knowing when to give up the battle.
That's a tough one. Have you figured out that balance yet? Because I still struggle with that.
It's hard. Like, even we shot a UML match a couple weeks ago, and there was I guess you got to kind of know your sport and know what your plan is and include that in your stage plan. But a lot of guys were shooting shotgun on the stage, and you're having to do a load. I think it was around 12 rounds to finish the stage out. And I was like, well, I was just going to shoot pistol, but there was this one target kind of far away. But I knew that if you missed this target in this UML game we were shooting that day, it was only a 4-second penalty for a miss. So what I did was I picked my one spot to clean as much pistol out as I could, and turned to that target and gave it 3 good shots. Didn't get it, moved on and left it. And so that was kind of the plan, was kind of knowing when to surrender and when to give up.
Yeah.
kind of built in my stage plan on that stage.
That's a very tough one to do when it's on the clock. So
It
you
is.
you like to do it in your stage plan, like
Yeah,
this is the
I
amount
usually,
I'm going to spend on that target.
but you can say that all day in the stage plan, but when you get on there, it's like, oh, one more shot. Oh, I know I can get it. One more shot. I've heard that, God, 1,000 times.
Oh yeah,
Not just from myself, not me talking to myself, but also from other shooters. I knew I just missed it. I could see it. One more shot. And the next thing you know, you're timed out.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did that a lot when I was first starting, and it was always on. I don't know. I guess shots that I wasn't confident on. I couldn't look at them and say like, oh yeah, that's something I've done before, something I've seen before. Mm-hmm. And then you just spend all the time in the world trying to shoot it, for ego or for whatever reason. When the smart move is just to move on. And I try to impress that upon like new shooters I see on the range when I go to like club matches or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the look on people's face when you say, throw a couple shots at it, well aimed shots, and if you don't hit it, move on. Mm-hmm. And then they'll invariably come back with like, well, why would I move on?
Exactly. Yes. Some people, it's you're out there to compete and do well, and sometimes giving up doesn't fit into that mental aspect of it. But sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up just digging yourself in a deeper and deeper hole.
Oh yeah.
Especially if it's like the rifle's the first portion of a stage, and you're sitting there banging away at this 450-yard target. And it's funny because sometimes I've had stages where you get you got a 10 target array all the way out to 5, and you hit 500 no problem, but it's like this weird 337-yard target you just cannot hit. Yeah. And knowing that you still got 20 pistol targets after this, so you got to get moving, you got to get done. I guess it's sometimes just kind of knowing when to say when.
Yeah, and I always say like, well, why would you stay? Instead of moving on, and just make them try to answer their own question, and then we'll walk through that math that you just did of like, okay, well, let's look. We've got 11 pistol targets and 9 shotgun targets. That's 20 targets right there. It's 15 seconds for failure to engage, and then on top of your 180-second timeout, and then we start to do the math, and it's like, oh, you can see the light bulbs
now
going.
I understand.
It's tough. And especially when you have your ego involved, right?
Exactly. I mean, most people don't like to fail, and that sometimes you just kind of got to get over that and kind of capture the situation, realize what's going on, and what you can do to make a difference on the stage, and what you can't. And if you can't hit that target, move on to the next part.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you got your shotgun figured out. You bought an 1187, and then any other upgrades or things you did differently when you went back?
I think if I remember right, I went to a different scope. The one I was shooting was pretty much just a little, I think it was like a 2 MOA dot in the center, and it was I can't even remember the brand of it, but I ended up going to I think it was a Burriscope or something like that with more of a mil dot. I mean a ballistic reticle, and that worked well for a while. And then knowing your holdovers, knowing how you're what ammo you're shooting and stuff like that, and at some point changing, a lot of equipment changed between then and now, but just kind of being more familiar with the gun, especially the rifle as far as long range shooting. The pistol I had down pretty much. We didn't see much different arrays, just kind of more targets than we would in what I was already shooting. I guess more gear was something I did change that went from just basically shooting a CR speed belt, kind of sliding everything on between stages, to one of the Safariland ELS stuff, which I still run now. It's easier changing gear between stages. That way you have more time to plan what you're doing instead of messing with your equipment. Yeah. And
man, the ability to share gear amongst your friends too is huge.
Yeah, I mean, the guys I usually run with is a group of us from Dallas. Every one of us runs the ELS stuff, and we're trading out stuff left and right all the time. Hey, I need 8 more shells. You got to let me borrow one of your caddies real quick, or I need my pistol pouch. I need another pistol pouch from this stage, swapping stuff out. So
yep,
it's funny, and actually, Jeremy with Shooter Source gave me a bunch of gear to bring with me to matches to help, new shooters that are having trouble or if they have anything break or stuff like that. One thing I set up with the gear he gave me was I took some of the Blade Tech. I can't remember what they're called. The belt attachments that clip on.
Tech Lock.
Tech locks. That's it. I took some Tech locks and mounted them to some of the ELS female clips. Put that on it, so it's that way you can clip it on your belt. Then I don't have to carry anything else. All I have to do is carry 4 or 5 of those things. And if someone needs to borrow my stuff, they're more than welcome to. Oh, here's an adapter for your belt, and you can use my equipment. So
that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I carry that to local matches too. Like we had one yesterday. A guy was asking me, "What do I need to buy? What do I need to do to this?" I said, "Well, here, my advice I always give is check out several different things because with our sport, a lot of the equipment's very expensive, and I bought several things and ended up not using them over the years." So I always recommend people try it out, see if you might like it or not. So this kind of gives people that option. So a guy called me and he used some of my stuff this weekend, and he was going to end up with some Carbon Arms caddies to load shotgun with after the weekend. So
cool. That worked out pretty well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it gets people, more people involved in the game. I mean, we have some guys come out and they'll load out of a fanny pack and things like that, and I hate to see that. I want them to at least, not be discouraged totally.
Yeah.
Struggling to load the shotgun, having to grab a shell and it's backwards and things like that. So at least give them some opportunity to succeed.
Yeah, no kidding. We had a new guy on our squad yesterday, and he young guy. So he was there with his dad. So I have no idea how old he was. He's probably teenager. Anyway, he had a 4-round pump shotgun. It was Remington 870, and he had I guess it was 2 quads, so 8-round caddy on his belt. And it just happened to be the day that they let me set up an all shotgun stage with 31 rounds of bird shot.
I was going to say, it sounds like he's going to run into a 30-round or more stage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so 31 rounds of bird shot and 3 slugs. And it was kind of like, Can we help you out here? And I always ask people if they want advice or if they want help or whatever. So I went up to his dad and I'm like, "Hey, do you mind if I offer to let him borrow a semi-automatic shotgun?" And he's like, "No, that's fine." So went up and asked the kid, and I was shooting a pump shotgun because I'm getting ready for the Colorado State match, which I'll be shooting a pump division. And so
sweet.
I had it's kind of a big change, but.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely different running a pump than running a semi-auto.
Oh my God, it's crazy. But anyway, so I had my Breda B12i in the back of my truck, and it has a 12-round tube on it, and I'm like, this is going to make your life a lot easier. And he did awesome with it. It was great, and it's really for me it brings me joy to be able to show people like, hey, this is the kind of gear and stuff like that, but also to make their match experience much better. Because we had 2 other stages that had shotgun on it as well. And so instead of feeding that pump shotgun, every 5 rounds, he actually had like the ability to pull the trigger 8 times in a row without loading it, So
yeah, it absolutely made the day more enjoyable for him. And hopefully, that's one thing about the shooting sports I find is very rarely have I seen someone in a situation like that and no one offer to help the guy.
Yeah.
Everybody's so just nice and wants to grow the sport, wants to see people do better. And you even see it. I mean, you even see it at the upper levels. We'll have like Dylan Easley and Nick Miller and myself on the same squad, and we're sitting there and we're like seconds from each other. But we're still loading gear out, helping each other out, doing things like that. And it's like these are the guys that are you're competing against, yet we're still helping each other. And that's what's one thing I love about what we do.
Yeah, I really enjoy that too. Did you find that same thing in USPSA and IDPA, or do you find that's unique to 3-gun?
I see it. I think it's more in 3-gun. I guess that's more. It's because it's more of a gear focused sport because there's so much more gear involved. But you did see it in IDPA and USPSA as well too. Guys will help with stage plans and things like that. Not as so much helping out swapping equipment, because it's not so much, some of the stuff for shotgun is somewhat universal with the loaders and things like that, the caddies and whatnot, and the AR mags and things like that. But for like stage plans and hey, you might not want to do that. You might want to think about this. You see that in those sports as well too.
Good. Now, when you started shooting 3-gun, do you think your background in IDPA and USPSA gave you an advantage? Because the pistol is definitely like something that separates the pack these days.
It took a lot of. I'll be honest. Once I started focusing on 3-gun, I kind of left IDPA behind because back then it was they had cover and limited round count. You couldn't drop mags out in the open, things like that. It was kind of stuff that wasn't. I didn't find it beneficial to shoot that sport anymore. If my focus was 3-gun, now USPSA definitely helped out a lot because it's very similar in nature. But I do still tend to rely on my pistol heavily on some stages, especially when you have the option.
Yeah. And so if you have like an option between like a shotgun and pistol, is that what you're saying? Like for like knockdowns and stuff?
Yeah, and I'm more confident too with the pistol. Get to that portion and feel a little better about it. Still getting, after all the years I've been shooting 3-gun, still feel confident in all the other guns. But it seems like I get more time. It's easier to practice pistol than it is the other two. And where I live, there is if I wanted to shoot a pistol match, I could probably shoot one. Probably have 6-7 opportunities a month to shoot USPSA or like even like a steel match. But 3-gun, there's maybe 2 clubs within 3 hours of me that shoot 3-gun, and I help run one of them. So not much opportunity to practice there.
Right. Yeah, I guess where I'm at, I'm very fortunate. We have, I think, 4 within like hour and a half, 2 hours.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
And we like probably about 4 years ago, we had we had 4 clubs doing them. Everybody, it was, probably 20 to 30 shooters at each match. And, but it's kind of dwindled over the last few years. I don't know if it's decreased interest, if it's things like PCC picking up in other sports that are, pulling those guys in that would be shooting 3-gun. But it just kind of unfortunately seems to dwindle around the area where I live.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because it's definitely picking up where I'm at now. There's more people shooting than I've ever seen. Now,
like on the other hand, like our club, the club I belong to, we have more members now than we've ever had, and we don't have a cap on membership, but there's definitely more people shooting, recreational shooting as far as competition. Some of the numbers are going up for the pistol shooting, especially in sports like IDPA, where it's you can start shooting IDPA with basic Glock you buy from local gun store.
Yeah,
and you only need a couple mags and 100 rounds or so to complete the match. When you start getting a 3-gun with the equipment requirements and all 3 guns and ammo for those, scopes, belt, caddies, all that stuff starts adding up. And sometimes financially, not everybody can get into the sport like they can other sports.
Yeah, for sure. There definitely is a barrier to 3-gun. Now, was it that same way when you started? So you've been shooting for like 9 years now. Like, how has the sport of 3-gun changed over the last decade?
Well, the game's gotten so much faster. I mean, back when I started, you'd have probably 5 guys I can think of that were pretty much all over the country, and some of them are still shooting right now. But those guys would dominate, and now it seems like that number's grown. I mean, you'll go to a match and kind of look at who's there. God, there's 20 really good, strong 3-gun shooters at this match at 200 people, and I mean that's changed the game, I think. But it has gotten faster. Like out of those when I first started, you had maybe not so many people could load the shotgun very fast, and that was a big deciding factor. But now that we're quad loading and weak hand quad loading, strong hand quad loading, now if you're not putting 8 shells in the gun in 5 seconds, you're in a minority because it seems like everybody can load the shotgun fast now. Which that used to be a big deciding factor on some stages and some matches where it was how fast you could load the shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing where more and more people are doing well with that. You also see several advances in gear, like think what was the big scope when I started was like a Miopta K dot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like what everybody was running. But now you got all these options: 6 power, 8 power, all these different reticles. You have different reticles in the same scope platform. It's all kinds of options there now. So
yeah, I remember when I started the guys that had like the high zoot rifles, the really expensive rifles.
Mm-hmm.
They had like a Burris MTAC on there.
Mm-hmm.
Where I've become such an optics snob that if I look through a Burris MTAC now, I'm like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the glass has gotten so much clearer. I mean,
yeah,
and it's not costing you $1,500, $2,000 either. There's scopes out there, $600-$700 that are clear, and I mean, and great for what we do.
Yeah, and just the abundance of like low power variable optics now. I mean. Mm-hmm. Every major manufacturer has 2 or 3 that they offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to choose too, because I have my main rifle I shoot's got a Vortex Razor 1-6 on it, and mm-hmm. I have a little short gun I shoot for like bay style matches and matches with a lot of targets less than 200-300 yards, and it's wearing a Viper Gen 2 PST, mm-hmm. and man, it's hard sometimes to choose both those great gray glass, very clear. I was really impressed with that Viper came out with it. I enjoy shooting it.
Yeah, I shot all last season with the Viper. It was mm-hmm. It was a really nice scope. Mm-hmm. I'm playing the 1X game now. I'm totally going off the rails here, Ryan. Got a pump shotgun and I'm shooting the Vortex UH-1 Huey.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't had a chance to play with that one yet. I tried limited locally a few times. I think I was using a Leupold prismatic back then, and I just switched to a 6 power scope. And you put the prismatic up there, 1X, and it's like, oh my gosh, that target looks so far away.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how. I guess like how intimidating it is to look at everything through 1X once you've had mm-hmm. the ability to use nice glass and look at things through 6X.
Absolutely, well, and nice glass with cheater drops too. Just put the first drop on the top of a 300-yard target, and that's the hold. I mean,
yeah.
With some of those old dots, you're having to say, okay, 3 dot widths above this target for that, and then you throw wind into it, and it's like, oh goodness.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I have so much respect for the guys who shoot irons well, and not just iron sights, but shoot the dots well. But even the iron sights, man, it seems like I've always shot glass.
Yeah, I've seen guys get out there and shoot like legit irons and mm-hmm. just banging away on targets several hundred yards away, and that is one of the more impressive things to watch.
Yeah, we've had a couple local guys come out and we'll shoot like shoot an M1A or something like that and heavy, and or even like an A2 AR-15, and most of those guys have had military backgrounds and spent a lot of time on the range qualifying and stuff like that, so they love those sights.
Yeah, I shot the Wyoming Governor's match last year, and mm-hmm. their limited division was irons division, irons. You could not have a dot or a prismatic or anything like that. And mm-hmm. The guy that won limited division was on my squad, and he had like a 14.5-inch rifle, legit iron sights, and mm-hmm. was just smoking through it. You couldn't even tell from the sounds of the gunfire that he was shooting irons. Mm-hmm.
It definitely wasn't limiting him.
No, not at all. It was really impressive. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see that, but yeah, you don't see real irons anymore. It's just all red dots now.
Yeah. Not many matches have a true iron division.
Yeah, and when they do, people complain about it.
Yeah. yes, they do.
Yeah. Well, so the game's faster. Obviously, gear has changed a lot over the years. What other differences do you see nowadays?
There's so many more options. I mean, so many more, not just rule formats or venues, but I mean, there's both of those. I mean, you can shoot now 3-Gun Nation rule set. They still have some of the outlaw rule sets, like I started out shooting, and but now you got UML coming with different rules, and but you got like we said earlier, it's maybe a dozen matches, 8 years ago, where now it's 30 matches a year that are out there. So you have options to choose, if you want to travel halfway across the country, or if you just want to go 3 hours away to this one. And it definitely, more people in the game has helped the sport, and it's growing it. And that's great. It's really great.
I find sometimes that there's like, the abundance of options tends to bring out like fear of missing out in me.
Yeah.
How do you choose the matches that you go to?
Well, I usually say I don't fly to any matches. I'd like to save the money I'd spend flying on shooting more. So I usually drive, say about 8 hours, about the furthest I'll go, where it's kind of good where I am in the Little Rock area. That 8 hours includes the Austin area. Could get me as far east as Kentucky, Fort Benning out in Georgia. I haven't gone much further north than Kansas City and some of the Missouri matches, but it's a good place to sit there and go. So I look at distance. I look at kind of watching videos. So like I watched a couple of Task Force Dagger videos this weekend, and that looks like a fun match. That might have to be on the calendar for next year. It might push my travel limit a little bit, but it might be worth it. So it looks like a fun physical match, which is great.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, when you talk about your 8-hour radius, that makes a lot of sense. When you put it that way, especially where you're located at, because there's a ton of matches within that 8 hours. Oh,
there are. It's a great place to be for if you don't mind driving like that. And I usually drive. I've got a little diesel car that gets like 40 miles a gallon. You can fit all my stuff in it. It makes it kind of tough though when you go to a lot of these natural terrains. So I still will drive my big 4-wheel drive truck if I have to go to one of those places. But something where I could either meet up with someone and throw some stuff in their truck, or makes travel easier too. It reduces the time you have to take off of work. So some matches I've taken off a little early in the afternoon. I can still get there, before 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So.
Yeah, do you do that leave on Thursday, drive all night thing, walk stages on Friday?
Kind of. Sometimes I try to leave. If it's a 3-day match, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, try to leave Thursday morning early. Take the kids. I usually take our little ritual, take them and get donuts before school, and take them to school. Visit with them one last time before I leave, and then hit the road by 8 or 9 o'clock. Usually get to most of those before 5 o'clock, and get to see some stages that afternoon. Try to see the stages we're going to shoot, Friday and Saturday, and then kind of fill in some of the downtime looking at the other ones and doing a little recon and seeing what's going on with them.
Gotcha. So you're banking on the efficiency of walking ranges and walking stages and trying to save that time rather than getting that extra day out there on the range.
Yeah, absolutely. And now sometimes I have left take the Thursday off, but end up leaving Wednesday afternoon after work and driving halfway and have a stopping point. Like that's what I did for Fort Benning last year. Drove to somewhere in, I think it was North Mississippi or North Alabama, and stopped there, and then made the rest of the trip in the morning. That way, I got to see all the stages on Thursday when I got there.
Other than pistol skills, or maybe pistol skills is your answer, do you have a unique ability in 3-gun?
And I guess stages that involve a lot of running, and fortunately I do work out and try to stay in shape. So some of the more physical stages, running, climbing things, stuff like that, kind of like to keep like those because I don't have a problem with covering a long distance and still having enough reserve to make some difficult shots and things like that.
Now, do you specifically seek out like the open terrain or the big matches like that where you're covering a lot of ground?
I do kind of like those. Those are my favorites. The more I do shoot these bay style matches, I do like those as well. But my favorite is a good long, natural terrain, where you're going to cover 100 yards or so. Those are my favorite stages, especially with a little bit of terrain, not a flat farmland field, something where you got some rocks and some ravine, and you have to watch your footing and things like that. I enjoy those. Those are my favorite.
Yeah, and that's where you shine then.
Yes, that's kind of where I like to shoot. Yeah.
Nice. Now, have over the years, have you seen matches get more physical or less physical, or how's that going?
Well, it's I think the more the growth we've seen, the growth I've seen in my limited time in the sport has been I've seen more of the bay style stages, and I guess that makes sense because that's a lot easier for some clubs and places who have ranges and stuff, because most of them are set up in pistol bays and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I see most of the growth. But I mean, I remember, some of the older matches, watching those on TV when some of the footage and coverings, things like that, and a lot of physicality. It's always been a physical sport. I mean, even the old, going back really old school in the 80s with the Soldier of Fortune matches, you hear about some of the guys talking about, and those were pretty physical matches, physical stages as well too.
Yeah. That's what drew me to 3-gun over pistol sports, I guess. I mean, obviously that you could use a rifle too was a big one, but but I like the physical part of it. It really appealed to me.
One part I liked about it too when I first started was a lot of these companies would had defense contracts, so they'd have stuff out there that you don't normally get to play with. Like that first match I went to, there was a minigun.
Yeah.
So every competitor got 50 rounds off the minigun and a turret, which not very many people have that opportunity. You'll go out to some of the military-based matches and they'll have belt feds, and I've got to shoot some simulated grenade launcher rounds, things like that.
Sweet.
Pretty cool stuff like that. You don't see that as much anymore. But that's kind of one part of the sport I do miss. So sometimes it was on the clock, which did kind of, some people might have an advantage in that if they've done that before. But that is kind of something I do miss from the sport. You don't see it much anymore. A lot of companies work, trying to push their product. I mean, we've shot everything. I remember there was a 338 Remington rifle we shot one time at Fallen Brethren at to like 600 or 800 yards. And I remember you broke the shot and you were standing up, getting ready to engage targets, and you'd hear that ping in the background that you hit it. Pretty cool, not being on the gun, and you still hear your impact. But they had some other full auto stuff they brought out. So that part of the sport, that's kind of changed, that I do miss.
Yeah.
Because I grew up a kid in the 80s. I grew up GI Joe, so I'm just happy I'm at 40 still running around playing GI Joe on the weekends, having fun shooting 3-gun.
Heck yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I kind of I don't miss that because I never experienced it, but I remember watching like a lot of the early 3-gun nation coverage, and they're doing this exactly what you're talking about, shooting miniguns and automatic rifles and stuff, and you don't see that. And I think it was exactly what you said, is that there was a lot of complaints that it was an unfair advantage for someone who had shot one in the service or something, but I think we're missing out now. I want to shoot some cool stuff.
I know, definitely. I miss. There was one stage. It was pretty cool. It was like it was one of the Texas 3-gun matches. You had to kick down a wall, and it was simulated like a beach landing. And they had forgot what kind of AR it was, but it had an HK grenade launcher underneath it. And they had a piece of plywood at about 50 yards, a marking round. And so you had to kick this platform down, and you stand there and just shoot this grenade at it, and if you hit the plywood, you got a 5-10 second pit bonus or something like that. So that was pretty cool.
That sounds awesome.
Actually, I'm in my office. I still have the spent cartridge from that marking round I fired too. I got to hang on to that.
Hell yeah, I love that. See, that's the cool stuff. Do you remember where you finished at that match?
That one, it was like inside the top 20, somewhere around there, top 20. Somewhere 2025, something like that.
But you definitely remember the marking cartridge.
Oh man, I'll always remember that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing. Well, so over the years, you've probably thrown a lot of rounds downrange in preparation for matches and everything. How has your practice changed from when you started out to now? How has it evolved?
Practice. So when I first saw like a big change in performance and stuff was back when I was shooting pistol, and my work schedule was a little different. I was working 12-hour shifts. I had every Wednesday off. So I would go to the range on Wednesday morning, and I would shoot a lot of 22. I had a little conversion kit for my Glock and spent a lot of time just a lot of lead down range with 22. And then my schedule evolved, and I had Fridays off. So that's about the time when I started shooting 3-gun. So pretty much Fridays I'd go out to the range and burn through a couple hundred rounds with each gun, and just kind of focusing on drills and just getting, more volume, a lot of trigger time. And, but lately now I have an 8 to 5 job. So and the kids are older now, so it's a little harder now. I usually right now I go to the range probably once every 2 weeks, and it's usually in the afternoons after work, which unfortunately can't do when the time changes because it's usually dark at that time.
Yeah.
But what I do now is I focus on just since I don't have much 3-gun to shoot around here, the skill I tend to lose is transitioning from one gun to another.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll do is set up a stage with like 2 pieces of steel and a couple pieces of paper, and you start with the pistol, hit the steel twice, each one, ground it, pick up the other gun, transition to that, and shoot another array of targets. But something like that, just getting that fluid motion of changing from one weapon system to another, a transition. Try to keep that fluid, try to keep that current, and then I'll do some other stuff. With spending a lot of time, don't put a lot of rounds down range, but we'll do like a lot of those transitions even within the gun. So like I'll set up a couple pieces of paper and I'll shoot 2 rounds at it, run over 10 feet and 2 more rounds at it. Just, trying to get to where you're entering a position shooting and exiting a position shooting, just work like that.
Mm-hmm. So I like that. It's like a economy of rounds, right? You're trying to get the most out of very few rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Get as much done before I have to get home and start helping with homework and getting dinner ready and doing all the dad stuff. So.
Now, have you always had like that economy mindset, or did you start out just like flinging rounds downrange willy nilly?
I just kind of when I first started, I would set up like a little mini stage, and put 10 targets up and this and this and do that. But you spend a lot of more time setting up than you do shooting, and when time's limited, trying to get the most bang for my buck, the most stuff I can do in the short amount of time I have. So, if I go out and shoot pistol, I'll probably only shoot 100, 125 rounds, but it's focused on not just sitting there banging away 40 rounds. It's, just little quick 8 round arrays, but, just kind of make the most of it and work on where I see I need improvement in my game.
Gotcha. Now, how do you decide where you need improvement in your game?
Well, I try to video everything, and I put a little bit of it out there on social media. I don't have the biggest social media presence, but just a little bit here and there. And but I watch every stage I shoot, and I watch where did I lose time here, and then I'll also think back to like who was I shooting with, and what did they do at this situation? Oh man, I lost 6 seconds here. I lost this here, stuff like that. And if it's going to be a match with a lot of shotgun loading, I'll really hit. Doing some shotgun loading practice. I usually practice that late in the evening, right before going to bed, and to kind of work on that. And I usually do that right before a big match anyway, just to get used to throwing shotgun shells in the gun again, especially if it's been a while. Yeah.
Now, when you said if you know that you're going to have a lot of shotgun in a match, now do you do like recon before the matches, or is this just experience based on last year's match?
Kind of experience based on last year's match. If you're going to a big national terrain, you're going to see probably at least some big arrays. So something where you have to, and I consider a big shotgun array where you have to load the gun more than twice. So and more than 8 rounds. So a 24 round stage, 30 or 30s and 40s. You're going to see those kind of based off history if you're going to a match that's had one before. Because you kind of learn the match directors learn what they're thinking. So if I go to say Kurt and Aaron's match, you're going to have probably one all shotgun stage where you got 30 rounds of shotgun. So you're going to have to be stuffing the gun a lot there. And plus 2, you got to play into the fact sometimes they'll have these matches will like to do flying clays and not just little flippers. They'll have an automated thrower. So I'll sometimes go shoot around the clays just to get familiar to tracking the gun, tracking the bird, especially with the short guns we shoot. I shoot a 21-inch Benelli, so got to get on them a little faster because the further you let them get out there, the bigger your pattern's getting.
Yeah. So you attack them right when they come out of the thrower.
I try to get on them as fast as I can. And,
okay.
At that point, lead about 6 inches, and you should be right on bird.
Interesting. All right. The reason I ask is that's always been a bad one for me in 3-gun. Like if I go out with like a 28-inch gun and I go shoot clays with some buddies or something, doesn't seem to be a problem. But with my shorter barrel, and I don't know if it's just something I don't do much anymore. It gets a little bit difficult.
Yeah, the hospital I work for has a benefit for clays every year, and I find myself sitting there. Even they'll shoot, is it five shooters at a time on a line, and so when I'm not shooting, I'm sitting there watching that house, and I'm just practicing, tracking. The bird goes left, high left, boom, there I'm at. And then when it gets to my turn, I'm ready. And as soon as I see a hint of movement where the bird kind of give me an idea where that bird's going, I'm automatically up and shooting. Get to it quick. So,
your coworkers have to hate you.
it's funny because the first year we went out, I think I shot like I was close to a little over 90, like 92 out of 100. And,
nice.
And I'm sitting there with this 21-inch Benelli. I shoot in competition. It's got this long tube. Everybody's like, "Well, that tube's full of bismuth or whatever, mercury or something." And I'm like, "Dude, this thing holds 14 shells. There's nothing. Pick it up." And they're like, "Oh, And these are guys shooting these Perazzi guns with the big high comb and the big rail on it, and of course it played well because we only shoot at the closest shooting position. We didn't have to shoot anything further back, but it's pretty funny. And I've been like kind of mid 80s every time I've gone since. So
I gotcha. Got to make them think that they can win.
Yeah, that's right.
Here comes Reed with his space gun again.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Good time.
It's fun. We have a good time doing it. So
yeah, anytime you can get out and shoot something different, I find is like always a good time.
Oh yeah, and it's also humbling too, because you go out and you consistently, or you do well at these matches, finish in the top 10, and then you go shoot like something like Steel Challenge or something like that, and where you got guys shooting open 22s that are just running them so fast, and you can't keep up with that. It's hard to keep up with that with a centerfire pistol. So just kind of push you, and especially shooting something that's totally opposite of or totally different than what we do, like the clay, like sporting clays or trap or things like that. And definitely humbling.
Now, do you think that type of cross training helps when you come back to 3-gun, or do you think it hurts your game because it's not specific training?
It kind of depends, I think. I think trigger time's trigger time, but if you're if you say like you go to like an NRA sanctioned rifle match where you're shooting a 20-something power scope, I don't think that's going to help much. It might help breathing control and target acquisition, but you're looking through something like I'm never going to look through glass that with that much magnification in a 3-gun match.
Right.
So that I don't think would be kind of counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to stick to when I do venture out something where it still kind of applies to what I do, not something that's like totally off the wall.
Right.
Like something archery or throwing axes or things like that.
Yeah. Grenade lobs.
Yeah. It's funny. My kids are also in scouts, and so I'm a scout range officer. That was one way I could kind of contribute to what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And we shoot slingshots and arrows, and we actually have a camp this week. So I'll be at camp with them from 6 to 9 every night, and
nice.
Running the range with another guy. And I'll have to familiarize myself with the bow and the different things, the different parts of it and what they're called, because I'll have to go through my little spill when I show them how to use it and stuff. And I didn't spend much time behind a bow.
Yeah.
It's still shooting though. It's still, you still, some of the basic principles still apply, and you still put it in my hand, and after a few shots, I can still walk it in and get it where I want it to go. But I sat there last year in downtime and punched the center out of a target with one of those Daisy BB guns, so that was still fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
BB guns are a good time I forget about all the time. Anytime someone has one and they hand it to me, I recall like all the time I spent in my youth trying to chase squirrels down in the backyard.
Oh man, I wish I knew how much copper pellets and BB lead pellets and all that were all over my parents' house, and my grandparents had a farm, and there were some silos, some grain towers around them.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a farm. I'm sorry. They had a general store in a small town, and they had some silos, some grain towers around them. So after lunch, I'd venture out with my Benjamin pellet rifle and see how many pigeons I could take down.
Nice.
Shot one on the fly too. That surprised me.
It's that cross training, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, as on the same topic of cross training, is there anything that you're shooting lately that's not 3-gun that you're enjoying?
Let's see. Right now, my next match is a pistol match. It's our Arkansas section pistol competition for USPSA. So I've been shooting limited heavy. I mean, not heavy. I'm sorry, major. So shooting major, and that's a little different than shooting our little 9mm rounds we pop at 3-gun. So getting used to the recoil, having to slow down just a little bit, and actually get those alphas and not shoot so many Charlies and Deltas and Mikes, but working with that. And so that match is next weekend. I'm going to shoot that, hopefully do well. I've been limited section champion last few years, so have fun doing that. But then I'm going to start training for some PCC. I'm going to go to the Lucas Oil PCC match in August, and so get refamiliarized with my JP, and hopefully have fun with that. I'm looking forward to that one. That looked like a good match last year. I wasn't able to make it, but this year I'm going to give it a shot and see.
Very cool. Yeah, I got the opportunity to shoot it last year, and it was a kick in the pants. I also had a JP that I borrowed, and man, it was so much fun. It was my first all PCC match, so I didn't feel like I was missing out of shooting the rifle caliber carbine, as I like to call it. But it was actually a ton of fun, and it totally changed my mind on PCC. So I think
I think it's anything that brings more people into our sport and in a positive manner is good. I think PCC's done that. It's brought more people in to shoot. It's kept people probably who've been shooting pistol for a while and maybe are looking for a change, or they're getting a little older and it's easier to see a red dot, and they don't want to spend the money on an open pistol, as far as not just the pistol, but the ammunition costs and things like that associated with it. And, buying a cheap 9mm rifle. I mean, so many companies have them out now that snag one up and still spend the same amount of money you're paying for ammunition, but you've got a rifle. It's easier to shoot and easier to see targets with the red dots.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I got a question for you. I've been chatting with people about divisions lately because I'm doing this experiment where I'm going to go shoot the patrol division at the Colorado State Championship, which again uses a pump shotgun, limited rifle, and then basically a limited type pistol that's not double stack, single action only. Do you feel that adding new divisions like PCC or Carry Optics as an example, do you think that brings more people in, or do you think it gives diversity to the options of the people that are already in the pool?
I think it does a little bit of both. You might have guys who are kind of more the tactical mindset that are shooting these Glocks with buried RMRs, things like that. I don't compete because I can't use this gun. Well, now they have a division for it, so they're actually able to put some rounds downrange on timer and do something they wouldn't normally do. But it also adds more diversity as well to the sport and gives people more options. If they might not want to run with the 200 people that are in TAC Ops. They might want to feel their own calling and shoot something different. Kind of gives them that option.
Yeah. Now I can't shoot USPSA because this gun doesn't fit. Now you can shoot USPSA because the gun does fit once Carry Optics is in there. Are those people coming to shoot?
I'm seeing more along the lines of the PCC than the Carry Optics. You see a lot of people out there. Some people out there shooting Carry Optics. I've noticed it more, but I've noticed the biggest jump around here with the PCC, with those guys coming out there. But to be honest, those guys, none of them they're all familiar faces. It's no new shooters that are coming out now that I can shoot this gun. I have seen more guys out there that are new shooters with the Carry Optics type guns. Okay. Those are guys that typically will go to some of these classes, and burn a couple thousand rounds in a class. But now they have a division they can shoot competition in. So those are the newer shooters I see to competition are those guys.
Good. It worked.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet.
Like I said, if it brings more people into the sport and get them more exposure, that's great.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a conversation that I have with people all the time is how to get more people into the sport. If you can think back to like your start. I mean, you saw it on television, but what was it that you were seeking that was missing that made you go to that first match? Was it the competition aspect of it? Was it the firearms aspect of it? What was it?
It was more. It was the firearms aspect of it because before I started competing, a trip to the range was putting some paper up on a board, standing there and shooting at it, and that got kind of old.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of the invite and the introduction into competition sports kind of came at the right time because I was getting kind of tired of just standing there shooting at paper. Found that there was a whole other side to it, which was welcoming, and it was also kind of a benefit too when you get there and everybody's like so welcoming, come shoot this, try this gun out, do this. Hey, if you turn your magazines with the bullets facing forward instead of backwards because it's easier to reload, things like that. So stuff like that. Everybody was so welcoming and kind of made you feel like you wanted to continue doing it, even if you weren't progressing well or finishing well.
Yeah, definitely.
It kind of keeps you coming back for more.
Do you remember any like early influencers or maybe like a mentor that guided you through the process?
Well, back when I started shooting for pistol, it was a couple of guys who'd been shooting while there, and a guy named Mark and another guy named Paul. And they were the ones who were winning all the matches. So so you see those guys and you're like, that's where I want to be. I want to be with those guys. And so just kind of work and pushing it towards that. And then for 3-gun, it was a good friend of mine, Wes Chandler. I met him at that first 3-gun match I shot, and I was always calling him, bouncing ideas off of him. He was not very far from here in Shreveport, so about 3 hours. So we'd meet up. He'd come up here for our local matches. We'd meet up at some big ones, and just kind of bouncing ideas off of him. So as far as gear wise, what do you think? Should I buy this? Should I buy that? Or also even when you get to a match, stage plan. What do you think you should do here? Are you thinking to do this? Just kind of getting ideas of how to break things down.
Yeah.
But it's always good. It's always good to lean on those guys with a little more experience, and always get. So even sometimes just you already know the answer, but just to kind of hear it again, to know that your thought process is heading in the right direction is good.
Yeah, I like that as well. It's nice when you've walked stages completely by yourself and with no one else, and then walked with someone to use as like a sounding board.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely recognize the benefit of having someone else there to bounce ideas off of, even if it's just saying your own dumb idea out loud and realizing how dumb it is.
Yeah, it's always better to have a second set of eyes looking at something. Be it at work when you're working on a project, or even trickling down to our sport and what we do. Taking a look at this and say, hey, have you thought about instead of going left here, going right? And that way you eliminate a whole position. Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so you mentioned that you help out with one of your I guess local-ish matches that's a couple hours away.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see rookies making in 3-gun?
So the one I've seen this year a lot is they get to their rifle and their rifle doesn't run, and they're racking rounds out of it left and right. And there was a young lady who came out to a match earlier this year, had the same issues with her shotgun, and I always say, hey, would you like some help? Would you maybe I can troubleshoot what's going on? And all 3 of those guns I opened up, and they were dry, like super dry. The ARs especially, even at the shotgun, the Benelli that we looked at, it was later on we found out it was just recently purchased and had pretty much been taken out of the box, and she brought it to the match. So
sweet.
With my Benelli, I grew up in Louisiana. My dad had a Benelli, had a Super Black Eagle, and when he bought his, the Duck Commander guys were shooting Benellis, and they were recommending shooting some 3.5-inch shells, box of those through, kind of break it in real well. So I kind of went with that mindset. I shot 3-inch shells. I couldn't find any 3.5-inch at the time, but kind of break the gun in and showed her how loose my gun was compared to what she was shooting, and kind of contributing, kind of break your guns in. Before you come to a match. But the ARs, I showed the guys where to lubricate an AR, how much oil to put, where to put it, more importantly, and to get the most benefit out of it. But that's the one I've seen this year. It pops up every now and then where you'll see, weapon maintenance and things like that. But that's one I've noticed at our local match this year was the mislubrication or non-lubrication of the rifle.
Yeah.
Because that thing doesn't like to run dry.
No machine does.
No.
That's the funny part is if you think about these as like machines, like you wouldn't run your car without oil or without transmission fluid or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you run the gun dry?
Absolutely, and then the other side too, you wouldn't want to run your engine with 8 quarts of oil when it only needs 4. So,
Right.
The proper amount in the right places, it plays a lot into it too. And some guys that this is their first AR, that never had one before, didn't know how to lubricate it, and so this was, it kind of helped them, and we showed them, we lubricated the gun, and it ran the rest of the match. So it's kind of always there to help, and especially on the local level, get those guys introduced to the sport and understand what they're doing.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, what are some of the things that you see that your newer crop of shooters can be doing to save time?
They we just yesterday, for example, we shot an array, a bank, and it was all close targets, and we had one guy that was one part of the bank was headshots, and they were close. I mean, probably 10 yards or less, and a lot of guys were taking 2 or 3 shots at the head to make sure they got them. And I'm like, guys, remember the rule set. You only have to have 1 hit in the head. So if you hit once, you don't have to make another shot there. And kind of getting them to understand the rules and what they have to do to neutralize a target, instead of sitting there putting 3 rounds in each head, just wasting time.
Right. 3 aimed shots too.
3 well aimed shots. Half second splits.
Yeah. What are some of the mistakes that you see people making, like even on the pro level?
On the pro level, it's it's hard to say, because the mistakes that when you get to that level that you make, they're very minute, but they can still be costly.
Yeah, the spectrum narrows quite a bit at that level.
Very, Dylan and I talked about that, and how there's the spectrum at that point. There's just like a little tiny margins of error, and you see that in say a big match, your top 3 shooters. There's very, very narrow margin, but then it'll widen up on that 4, 5, and 6, maybe all the way to 10, and then it'll widen up even further after that. But at that level, it's, the way I see it, it's stage plan and execution and footwork being very important. So if you come into a position and your right foot's supposed to be right there so you can see that last target, if you miss it by 6 inches, you have to reposition. There's half a second or 3/4 of a second there. So it all adds up at the end of the weekend.
So how do you, so on the topic of footwork, how do you plan your footwork then to make sure you don't overrun a position or stop short on a position?
So I like to look at a reference, either it being an area of the fault line, or maybe even being a visualization of a target. So like if you go into a bank and there's 4 targets there, and I know when I see the second one, I can see all of them. So I'm focused on that second target when I go in, but my gun's coming up because I want to shoot the first one first, the first target first. So just kind of using some kind of visual reference to make sure you're in the proper position. Because one thing you don't want to ever do is have to, once you get to that position, make any adjustments like backing up or moving left or right. That's where I see you can lose a lot of time.
Yeah. I've experienced that quite a bit myself this year, was when I come into a position and all of a sudden I can't see the target that I thought was going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Jeremy Moore's match, the Vortex Shooter Source 3 gun, it's off in the trees, and now I'm like trying to hunt and peck and move my head around.
Well, so what's funny about natural terrain matches like that too is you might on Thursday look at a stage and say, man, I can only see that target from here.
Mm-hmm.
And you shoot the stage on Sunday after another 100 and something people have put, a lot of lead through that area, and all of a sudden you see the full target.
Yeah, no
several
kidding.
different places, because some of the trees will take a beating and stuff. So sometimes that's not the best way to judge it, but depending on that. But I always look, like when I do my walkthrough, and that's what I'm focused on the walkthrough is where my feet need to be and what body positioning I have to engage certain arrays. And it might be somewhere at this position here, I'm gonna start running because I know I can run and shoot these 5 targets on my right as fast as I can, and just kind of references in the course to dictate where I need to be or what I need to be doing at that time.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you do your walkthrough, do you do like programming of like a normal walking pace, or do you do all out sprint of the pace that you're going to be doing when you run or when you actually shoot?
I'll usually, when I first come to a stage, I'll do a walk and count, like how many targets there are and what, to idea, because I'm thinking in my head, either reload the pistol, hopefully not reloading the rifle, there's that many rifle targets, but or reloading the shotgun specifically, where your loads need to be and your gaps and where you have the opportunity to put rounds in the gun. And then, so that's a really slow pace. And then as the more times I walk it, the faster I get to where it's maybe once at full speed, and get an idea of how those targets are going to be presenting themselves. Because if you walk a bank of targets, they present themselves a lot differently than if you're running. So I always like to do kind of a full speed or like a close to full speed run just to see how they're going to present themselves to you, kind of be prepared for it.
I gotcha. Now, does that change then when you go to like an open terrain match?
It can, but it all kind of comes to play. For the open terrain matches, the footwork sometimes is not as important, because if it's a base stage where you have these walls and targets, you can see 3 from this spot, 4 from this spot, 5 from the next. The footwork's real important. So with the open terrains, it's more like a general area. So at this point, I need to be aware of these targets over here. I don't need to go any further because I don't want to break the 180, but so I want to be well within that 180 when I shoot these, and just kind of be cognizant of what's where you are in the shooting area, because some of the natural terrain ones have a big, wider berth, and it's a little more forgiving. Yeah. But you still might have parts of the stage where, a lot of these guys, ladies match directors, are great about sticking that one clay behind a tree where you can see it from this one place. So you just kind of look for those targets and identify those, and kind of focus in on those difficult presentations, and kind of pre-program those where you're going to get those.
Gotcha. Well, so you've got your pistol match coming up, but you've got a PCC match coming up in about a month here. What are you going to be focusing on for the rest of 2018 as far as your shooting game goes?
So beginning of September will be Gen 3, which I've gone to Gen 3 every year since its inception, and I'll keep going as long as Chad does it. It's a great match, great cause.
Such an awesome match.
Oh man, it's great. It's fantastic. And last year I had a disappointing match. I didn't shoot very well. Was in the mid 20s or so, and but I got asked by Riley to do the shoot off with you, and that was awesome. That made my weekend right there.
That was such a kick in the pants, by the way. It was so much fun. That was like the highlight of the match, was to do that.
It was a blast. And y'all, I probably didn't tell y'all. I went to the hotel and took a shower, and checked out and came back out to the range. And I was in my, just some khaki shorts and some little, flip flops and a t-shirt. And they're like, Riley's looking for you. He needs someone to shoot in the shoot off with him. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had to go find my belt and unpack my pistol, load mags, do all that stuff. But I was like, you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was great. I had a blast doing it. Hopefully he'll select us again, or someone else will. We'll get to do it this year.
Yeah. When let's see, I think it was, who was that? I want to say it was Tiffany Overland, but it might have been someone else who snagged me and said, hey, Riley's looking for you. I was like, are you sure you're talking about me?
That's what I think what I told him. I said, man, the way I shot this weekend, you must be desperate.
No, that was such a great time, though. So for people who are listening and are like wondering what we're talking about, so there was a Generation 3 gun is a match that raises money so youth can shoot other matches, which is a really cool sort of concept. And all the juniors at the match shoot for free, and they all got put into a shoot off, just kind of like a rifle, pistol, shotgun shoot off, but it's a team shoot off, and the juniors get to pick 2 other shooters, adult shooters, for their teammates. And Riley Croft picked Ryan and I. It was a good time.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, I love that format. Like, I've never seen that before, and it was such a kick in the pants. I didn't see anyone out there with a frown on their face that was watching or shooting. It was just so much fun.
Oh, and it was fun just to see the it's all fun and all that, but just still the competition come out, and you do this because everybody's strategic planning and stuff and how they're going to execute, and then it not go well, and everybody behind them laughing at him, making fun of him. And this was great. It was great. It was great. I mean, y'all were giving me grief about the one pistol target I missed, and I'm sitting there. Riley shot 24 rounds at 6 plates, and y'all are giving me a hard time about one pistol plate.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
but he shooting the rifle. He did have the harder thing offhand plate rack at that distance. But
for sure. Offhand plate rack in the shoot off is always the equalizer.
Yeah, it's a hard presentation on a stage, and it's a harder presentation with 130 people watching you. It's even more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty happy when Riley told me he was going to have me do the shotgun. I'm like, cool. Yeah, so that was a good time.
Yeah, so I got Gen 3, and then after that, there's a match in Oklahoma on the military base there at Fort Sill. So I went last year. It was a good match. I'm going to try to hit that one up this year. And then it'll be Fallen Brethren back in Texas with Jim Smith. I missed the first year Jim did his Fallen Brethren match, and I've been at every one since, and that's always a great match. Let's see. After that, it'll be Fort Benning in Georgia, and shooting that one as well too. The Fort Benning was one of the matches when I first started getting into 3-gun. I was like, I got to go to that because you'd watch the 3-Gun Nation guys were there and they were videoing it, and you're in APCs driving around, you're running through tunnels and all. I mean, they dug trenches. The Corps of Engineers dug all these trenches, and it was like, oh man, that just looks so much fun. And then when I started traveling, unfortunately, they stopped having the match. And I was pretty disappointed in that. So when it came back, I was like, I'll give it 1 year and see how it looked, and it looked really good. So I went out last year and was not disappointed. My performance now is another hand, but I was really you don't get to do that, go on military base and actually participate in shooting competition very often or have that opportunity. So when I get that opportunity, I'll go ahead and take it. And she got to shoot with some great guys, some my buddies up from the Minnesota area and stuff. So had fun there.
Yeah, that's such a great format, to shoot on a military base like that. And then the dudes at Fort Benning really seem to do it up. Like last year, they dug a trench, filled it with water, and then you rowed a boat. Like, where do you get to do that?
No, I know. And then how do you practice that? That's the other part of it too. So it's kind of like, it's just kind of don't try to burn that one down. Just try to just don't leave anything. Don't accumulate any penalties, and put your 85-95% score up there and move on to the next one.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Ryan, we're reaching the end of our time here, but I got a fun last question for you.
Okay.
Can you tell me about your most spectacular disqualification?
And I hate to say it, I need to find something wood to knock on, but I've never disqualified from a match.
Hey, all right,
man. And I hate to say that because got a bunch shooting this year, and I've watched a few pretty spectacular ones and some good big shooters in the last year, but unfortunately, I can tell you my closest I've ever come. How about that?
Yeah, let's hear it.
So it was at Fallen Brethren probably about 4 or 5 years ago. They had a stage where we ran downhill and shooting the rifle. So you shot like 3 or 4 paper targets on the way down, and you came to this bank, and there was probably maybe 10 offhand BC steel around 100 yards. And and this is actually on YouTube too. I put it on there. But
nice.
I get down to the end of this thing, and I start shooting these rifle targets, and I'm going 1 for 1, just hitting them, and just something doesn't feel right. The weight in my body doesn't feel something. I could tell something was off. And about this time, I hear that dreaded sound. That's Velcro letting loose, and it's my entire belt coming off. And the rest of that stage was probably 16 BC steel for pistol. 30 yards, 40 yards being the furthest. And I was shooting 40, so I had 21 rounds in my gun. And I was the whole time I'm thinking, oh gosh. So I put my hand down and I pinned my belt with my right elbow. I'm a right-handed shooter, and I think I had 3 or 4 rifle targets left, and So I'm pinned in this awkward position, and I go finish those 3 out, ground my rifle, waddle over to the bucket, and draw my pistol. And when I draw my pistol, the belt lets loose. And I've lost both my spare mags. I got 1 mag in the gun, and I'm like, all right, front sight time. So was able to finish the stage. I think I had maybe 3 rounds left in the gun.
Oh, nice.
And it was probably, I think I was like, it was one of my better finishes of this match too, on the stage wise. But yeah, came close to losing the pistol on that stage.
Oh man.
But it was fun. I remember the Ting Sung was a friend of mine. He was actually running the stage when we finished it. He was like, that was a great recovery. I thought you were done for on that one. But
now, was the peanut gallery laughing while this is all going on, or were they gasping?
I think they were all gasping, and at the end they were laughing because the belt goes tearing off and all that stuff, and someone comes in, hey, you might need this for the next stage, joking around, doing what we do, but yeah, that's my most memorable, closest. I've had a few dump barrel bounce outs that have been kind of scary, but the gun settled, and that's one thing I don't do a lot of is aggressive grounding with the gun. I've seen too many guys get too aggressive and get sent home for it, but I'd rather take an extra half second, make sure it's gone make sure it's safe before I move on.
Yeah. I noticed that about myself. I was getting too comfortable just tossing my guns in there. And then our buddy Dylan, had his spectacular bounce out. And so I've taken that upon myself to fix lately.
Yeah. I spoke to some of the Vortex guys, asked me to talk about 3-gun tips for new shooters, and that was one of mine. But something I could think of is, I've never heard someone say, God, if I'd have grounded that gun faster, I'd have won that stage.
I know.
But I've heard several people, have their picture at Dairy Queen or whatnot after because they did ground the gun too fast.
Sure. 2016, I shot, I want to say like 3 matches. Maybe it was only 2. On a squad with Nate Staskowitz. And one thing I noticed is that guy, he treats his guns like they're the only ones he's ever going to have. Like he sets them down very gently. He puts them on the bottom of the bucket. He never drops them. And
Nate probably does that faster than anybody.
Yes.
Throwing guns too, because Nate doesn't do anything non-fluid. He's
exactly.
very, very smooth. And I think, when you asked earlier about practice, that's another thing I do is practice grounding guns. And when I do my little brief transition, work on, as you're getting rid of one, putting it down gently, but coming up with the other one. So you're actually, gaining time there.
So you're not wasting any additional time. You're combining movements, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of doing two things at once.
Yeah. So don't spear Chuck your shotgun. All right, Ryan. Well, this has been a great time, dude. I appreciate you taking the time out from your Sunday and your dad duties to chat with me on the 3-Gun Show here. This has been a great experience, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, man. It's great talking to you as well.
Absolutely, Ryan. Well, good luck in the rest of your season. Hope to see you on the range soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave.
Before you take off, be sure to head on over to 3gunshow.com/episode 201 for links to things that we discussed in the podcast. Also, while you're there, leave a comment if something Ryan said sparked some interest in you. Anything you want to have a discussion on, go ahead and comment there, or on the Facebook post, Instagram, etc. While you are there, consider supporting the 3-Gun Show on Patreon. I'm working with several companies to bring some special discounts to Patreon members in the next few months, and some other cool incentives. And like I said, first crack at apparel. So Patreon supporters are the cool kids. They get all the benefits, and I appreciate those who support the show. So patreon.com/3gun show. That's Patreon. This podcast is brought to you by Armalite, the original. Armalite rifles put the AR in AR-15. The rifles themselves come with 1-8 twist barrels, match barrels, 18-inch or 13.5-inch with a 15-inch or 12.5-inch handguard, Timney trigger, Luth AR stock, adjustable gas system, tunable comp, a patented tunable comp. This thing's ready to go right out of the box for a 3-gun. with no additional modifications other than putting on a nice optic. I myself use a Vortex Viper PST 1-6 when I'm shooting TAC Ops or their Spitfire when I'm shooting limited. Check them out at Armalite.com. Quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.